We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you.
Entrando por tus oídos hasta llegar al centro de tus emociones, ADR Networks está en este momento
activando tus sentidos.
ADR Networks presenta.
This is Celestine Angel.
And I'm Isaac Crouch.
And this is...
Foreign Show!
On the foreign show.
Yes, y'all.
Hey.
We don't stop. We won't stop. If you don't stop, That Foreign Show, TFS.
On That Foreign Show.
Yes.
I'm Celestine Angel.
And I'm Isaac Rakish.
So,
and
we are Illuminary, activating your senses.
That is right.
So we're trying a different setup today. We're looking a little different, more like how we stream as Illuminary.
Looks fresh, no? I like it.
Let us know what you think.
Let us know what you think. You tell us some different likes.
Should we go on into the segment for Insider, TFS Insider? So, guys, if you could put up, when you can, the poster that we have for, it's going to be, I think, next week.
Yes, 21st of January. 21 de enero. 21st of January, and it starts at 11 a.m. I'm looking at the poster right now. All right, so we're going to put the poster up in a sec, okay? The first thing that grabs you when you look at the poster is you see this golden rabbit.
Yeah, it's the year of the rabbit.
Yeah.
Chinese animal zodiac. And basically the Chinese embassy, along with like all the Chinese cultural groups in Mexico, they are setting up this event for Chinese New Year. It's next week. It's going to be a massive event. It's the second one that they are having, and last year was really successful, so they're continuing to do it this year. And I'm just trying to arrange to get the poster.
All right, it says here Entrada Libre. It's free entry. All right, so we want to invite each and every one of you to come on down. Yes, the poster is up right now. You can take a look.
Yes.
Come on down.
Look at that.
And begin your new year. This Chinese New Year thing, it's a bit about resetting your energy. It's a bit of just kind of finishing up old business and getting aligned to new business, right?
Right, and the Chinese New Year has always have a lot of special energy because it's all about luck and this resetting thing. And being Chinese and coming from Asia, it's a huge celebration for us, and we celebrate for many days. So honestly, like I said in our social media, our holiday season doesn't end until Chinese New Year ends. So, and we will be playing. Isaac and I will be closing the show with some of our original songs. We will also do a Chinese number just to commemorate the event properly. But so come down and join in the festivities. It's going to be really fun. There's going to be martial arts, lion dance, and the idea, as organized by our friend Nadia, is that it's like how the Chinese influences have spread throughout the world. So we are getting tradition, but also in its artistic form. So that's the idea. So basically that's what we want to share with you. It's going to be next week.
So it's going to be basically you're saying it's a mix of traditional stuff, and there's going to be
it's all traditional stuff, but it's also supported by the Arts Council or something like that, from what I know. So it's meant to be like a version of all the traditional Chinese.
Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah, look at all the sponsors here. It says the government of Mexico, it's the cultural department of the government of Mexico is supporting this, and also the Chinese embassy. So it's like you said, it's going to be a huge event. Just to let you guys know, it's actually in Coyoacan, all right? It's Avenida Rio Churubusco 79, okay? And it's in Coyoacan. It's a beautiful place in itself. So you should just come on down on the 21st of January. Each and every one of you, free entry. Just come on down, join us. All right, watch the activity starts at 11 a.m. ends at 5:30. We're gonna be closing the show, so
Yeah, so
Illuminary's gonna
come
be closing
say
the show.
hi.
Come on down, say hi.
Yeah, there's going to be like a fashion show too. Like it's just going to be really fun. Like I mean, it's Chinese New Year, so jump in and join all the like fireworks, worldwide.
Yes.
Yeah.
Begin
Yeah.
your year. The year begins with Chinese New Year for us culturally, coming from Singapore and that whole part of Asia and stuff. And yes, we want to invite you guys to come on down and join us. We have a bunch of great people organizing this thing as well, right?
Mhm.
You mentioned Nadia, a bunch of great
Yeah.
people.
And I mean, we have met here in Mexico like so many Asian friends and like half Asian, half Mexican, and all that. Who people who really want to get in touch with their culture. Some of them have like spent a year in Asia just to connect with their roots, and like I mean, it's really funny. Like Asian or not, Chinese or not, like it's Chinese New Year, so just join everyone and have a good time.
One and all, you are invited. All right, 21st of January, Koyokan.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And can you tell the people a bit about this rabbit thing? Like, what's this? What's the rabbit and animals and?
Oh, I don't know enough about the rabbit. Like we know about our animals. Like I mean, to me, because I'm really into astrology, like for Western and Vedic and all that, but like the Chinese one feels like the description of the animal. I mean, it's a yearly animal, so everyone who's born in that same year is that animal. Like it feels to me that it's like the most like exterior version of you, like
You mean like impression, like a person's impression of?
yeah, I think it's very, I mean, even more than your rising sign in Western astrology. I feel like the Chinese one is even more um physical. The description, I mean, the whole description goes to the core, of course, but yeah, it is very like exterior based. I mean, that's what we noticed because we were at a Chinese restaurant here in Mexico actually, and then we read all the different descriptions of all the animals, and and then we really like studied it, and it felt like it was most like surface level, not to put it down or anything like that, but I mean, because what you are vibrating in your external world is also um, symbolic of what's happening within, right? So it's some kind of identity that is being held on to as well. Well, anyway, like we would love to jump on to, because our guest is already here.
Our guest is here.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, our guest
Matt
is here.
Porterfield
Matt
is
Porterfield
joining us
is
today.
in the house. I think he's backstage right now.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
He's a director.
Let me tell our
He's a
guys
producer.
to bring him in.
All right. And he's a really interesting dude. All right. The stuff he's done and looking at his website, it's just beautiful vibes. We're just waiting for him to come on so that we can. There he is.
Matt.
Hello.
Hey guys,
Hello.
How's it going?
Celestine, Isaac, so nice to see you. Thanks for having me.
So nice to see you too. bro.
Okay. Could I raise up his volume?
Yes,
a
I'll do
bit?
that.
Okay.
So,
I like the new setup. It looks good.
Yeah.
It looks good there. Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, actually, this is how we do our streams. So, like, we decided to just do this way again. Yeah. How are you? Like, what's been up?
I'm good. I was in the U.S. Visiting family for the holidays, the New Year, and I've been back for a week. Lots of work, but I'm really happy to be in Mexico again after a quick trip to the States.
We are very excited when we hear you say lots of work because we know what work you do. It's like creative with movies, like like stuff that feels very progressive. Like I was reading like your website and all that.
How would you describe your work or what you represent? I mean, like, I mean, in your own words.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm a very independent filmmaker, writer, director from the States, born in Baltimore, and most of my work to date, at least all my like full-length feature films, are set in Baltimore, close to the neighborhood where I grew up, exploring themes of the working class. There's a bit of like cinematic realism there, but also I like to think that I'm a modernist too, thinking as much about sort of form as content, as story, narrative. Yeah, but now, I've had an opportunity with my work to travel, and I'm really interested in kind of expanding my practice working outside of the U.S. I made a film in Berlin a couple years ago, another in Argentina, and I got 2 shorts under my belt here in Mexico, and
Nice.
looking to continue to work outside of the States.
So when you say you explore working class themes, like you're talking about, like, I mean, for the people that don't know, I mean, if you're talking about working class Baltimore, right, Maryland, what are we talking about? Are we talking crime? Are we talking just good, honest to God, working people, kind of union people? What are we talking about?
Well, I think that's a great question. I mean, I believe that, my films focus on labor, on industry and the lack thereof in a city like Baltimore, where you had a GM plant, you had Bethlehem Steel, you had a very vibrant textile industry. All of those things are gone now. So what does it mean to be working class in a city like Baltimore? So it's about labor, but the absence of labor as well, and how that affects individuals, families. If that makes sense.
Really? Well, I mean, I'm just thinking, like, cause like you reading your website, there's at one point something jumped out at me when you mentioned DIY, and I think you kind of mentioned that also, like you say, you kind of just do things yourself, right? In that sense, I mean, like you come up with a solution yourself to things, right? Like, and then was it something that you felt just most natural to just talk about what's around you, kind of thing, like?
I
With your
mean,
films?
that's what inspires you.
Yeah, I mean, I studied film in New York, and lived there for a number of years. But as engaged as I was with filmmaking at that time, as much as I was learning, I didn't really feel like I had any stories to tell in New York, and everything I was writing was about Baltimore and about my neighborhood. And so in a way, returning to Baltimore after those years in New York after school provided me an opportunity, like as an adult, to learn about my city through the process of filmmaking. So it's a very explorative practice, very collaborative. I don't work alone. I mean, film is very much a collaborative
Right.
art. So I rely on the help of a lot of great people in Baltimore and from other parts of the world. I mean, I guess my films are personal in a way, and they're personal because I have really a strong relationship to my city. And Baltimore is a city that we know from, like, The Wire and maybe the films of John Waters, and there's some music like Dan Deacon or Future Islands out of Baltimore. There's a lot of music and culture, but yeah, I just wanted to do something a little different that felt true to my experience growing up. Yeah.
And what was the inspiration behind Party Hill? Because I mean, I read the whole description of, it's about death, and so.
Yeah, so that's a film that came together kind of from the ashes of what was a more ambitious, like fully scripted feature. It was going to be my second film, but it was around 2008 when we were trying to find the financing for it, and we couldn't. But I had a cast in place in a number of locations, and so I built this very simple framework to accommodate them, using the idea that we are learning about a character, a young man who's died of a heroin overdose through his absence, through his friends and his family. And it kind of incorporates a form, like a formally, like, documentary approach. There are interviews throughout conducted by an off-screen voice that kind of break the story, break the narrative line. And so the film Putty Hill ended up being my second film, and it did quite well. I think people responded to it formally, but they were also really excited to see the cast that we'd assembled and a sort of different look at Baltimore. So that film kind of, it put me on the map and got me outside of the US and,
Right.
and in front of other audiences. Mhm.
And the shots that you've been doing in Mexico, are they about Mexico? Like, what was the?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, I don't know. Well, one was, so my first short
Yo,
made.
before you go on, I have to say this, I'm really enjoying this, man. Yeah, so
Oh, thanks. Me too.
great.
Thanks. I feel like we're just sitting across the table from one
Yeah.
another. Yeah, I mean, well, the first short I was able to make in Mexico, I made in Tijuana, where I lived for 2 years, and we made it during quarantine. So it was like me, an actress, a cinematographer. It was a really small team, and one location. And so it's really a character study. It's about a young woman. It's about language. It's about how we communicate through language. So there's a couple exterior shots, but it's not even really about Tijuana, a city that I'd love to continue to work in. So no, that one's really just kind of about a person, but it is Spanish language. And
Spanish, okay.
yeah, for that film, I took like a lot of texts, some that I had written, one that a friend had written, some texts by more famous authors, one French, one Japanese, and translated them all into Spanish, which was good practice for me. And so it was like, yeah, the film is kind of about how language changes through adaptation, and also how language contains like visual cues, because the film just takes place in one location, but this woman is like speaking the whole time, like to others, to herself. And so the experiment was like, okay, how do we use language to like create some sort of visual reference for an audience. And then the second film, short, which was commissioned by a festival here in Mexico City called Black Canva, which happens in November. I co-directed with my friend Nicolas Ruiz, who is from Mexicali. And we shot here in Mexico City, again, Spanish language. We didn't have much in the way of like, instructions. It was just kind of like, take the city and use it as a prompt, like explore the city through your piece, however you want. So I feel like this film, it's called Extinción de la Especie, Extinction of the Species. It's like much more tied to Mexico City.
Okay. And I mean, as producer and director, like, what do you feel about the film industry here in Mexico? Because from what we know, it's booming and pretty interesting environment. And
it's amazing. I mean, the industry here is super exciting. I mean, you have things happening on so many different levels and scales. There's obviously a lot of publicity done here, commercial stuff, but then in terms of film, you have some very small, what we call independent in the US films that are finding a global audience. And then you have, I mean, these incredible Mexican auteurs making, films for Netflix and Amazon.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of work here, a lot of creative people. I've been lucky to get to know many folks working in the industry, and it feels very, I don't know, I vibe with it. I vibe with it more than the US industry, that's for sure.
So you're feeling satisfied, like you're feeling good being here and doing your art here in Mexico, right?
Yes, yeah, very much. I still got to figure out how to get paid every month, but that's the way it is.
Who don't know, myself included, how does it work? Like, for example, say you decide to move to Mexico and make a movie, right? So obviously your crew and everything, obviously there are people that you like to work with because you've worked with them before and stuff. But I'm guessing most of the crew is sourced locally.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, definitely.
So then there's a lot of the kind of like, hey guys, I need you to understand my vision kind of talk. There's a lot of that. Yeah,
usually. I mean, I think that happens in the days, weeks, months leading up to the actual physical production. You're talking with your team individually and together, the sort of heads of department, if you will, your cinematographer, your art director, sound recordist, the editor and the people you're going to work with in post, trying to articulate what it is, the actors, obviously, trying to articulate what it is that you are trying to make. And for me, it's definitely challenging, communicating that sometimes in Spanish, which is, a second language, and I'm not quite fully fluent, but it's exciting too. It's like, in some way, it requires like you to really focus on like the simplest essence of an idea, right?
Wow. Okay, wow. That's dope. Like we had this thing also, like where obviously learning Spanish or learning a new language for that matter, and like kind of how you go about learning it, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, are you gonna go about like, okay, I need to get all of these phrases in, or is it gonna be more of a kind of what do you need in the moment and you master that kind of thing, like
In broken Spanish,
in
maybe.
broken Spanish. Yo, this is interesting, man. It's so beautiful. Like, I gotta ask you this: like, your first film, Hamilton, right? And I'm guessing you took your whole life to make that one, right?
Yeah.
And like how did that come about? Like, did you decide to be a filmmaker, or did you start out like messing with cameras and in this YouTube age, or how did that happen?
Yeah, how did it start?
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, I was really into the arts and theater when I was growing up. My dad was a writer. I mean, my parents were both teachers, but my dad was a writer. They were creative people. But I never had like a video camera ever. My family didn't. Because I was born in '77, so I was in high school in like in the '90s. I mean, there were like camcorders and stuff. But I loved movies. I went to study in New York, and my first year I met like some friends. I made some friends who were studying film, and I was like, oh, you can do that? You can go to university and study filmmaking? So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do that. And I transferred into the film program, and it was it was like a whole world opened up to me. But I also like didn't really know, I don't know, it seemed like everybody that was able to make things, even as students, like able to like realize ambitious projects, they all came from they all had money. And so I took a pause on school. I actually dropped out and never went back, but I kept feeding myself and trying to work not only in film, but in whatever field would pay the rent. And after a few years of that in New York, I was like, I really want to try. I didn't finish school, but maybe I'll move back to Baltimore and try to make something that I feels like a thesis. If nothing else, it's like I'll learn through the process of doing. And that was sort of the way I set out to make Hamilton. If nobody else sees it, fine, but I'm going to make this thing. I'm going to see it all the way through from beginning to end.
Yeah, I'm really
That's
connecting
beautiful.
with a lot of things you're saying.
Crazy.
Personally, so it's really cool. Yeah.
And this thing, must have been scary also, right? Like to at that moment when you're deciding that yes, I'm just gonna make this, and I'm just gonna make this, right? Like, wow. I don't know. I'm just going back to that theme again. That this whole thing about DIY, and doesn't mean you being the only person. I mean, your whole team can be DIY, and this thing really hit a strong chord for us, because coming from Singapore, where we're from, this DIY ethos is not really. It's like why DIY when you can pay someone to?
And we definitely feel all the things you say, always thinking about the budget, and like all these other people seem to be rich already, that they already did that, and so we felt very limited, that kind of thing.
It's almost like DIY means being really aware of what your art is and how you want to put it out, and what right? I'm guessing that is for you as well. Wow, that's really amazing.
And also, like you've mentioned in your email that you received the Guggenheim Fellowship.
Ooh, yo, we gotta do that one right. Hang on. I'm gonna do this for you guys, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls who are watching us right now. This is TFS. All right, we are in conversation with someone really special. All right, let me check this out. Okay, just keep talking. I'm gonna.
I think like the hype man.
Thanks.
He said thanks.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we are in conversation. All right.
You try to get
with Matt
Porterfield.
Porterfield. Yes, I'm looking for that part here. All right, I'm looking at the credits. All right, we're in conversation with a writer, director, and creative producer. Was on his website, he's listed 4 feature films that he has done. And after talking to him for a while, we realized that he has done more stuff. He's done 2 more short films here. All right, so we want you guys to check out his stuff. All right, as a producer, Matt has participated in IFP's No Borders Cinema, Fit Lab, the Berlin Co-Production Market, and the Venice Production Bridge. Matt is a Creative Capital grantee, the recipient of a Wexner Center Artist Residency, and Guggenheim Fellow.
Yeah, I didn't understand some of it, but yeah. Yeah. But the Guggenheim, yeah, I know about that one.
Matt, please tell us more about that. Like, how did that come about, and how did it kind of affect your art?
I mean, I know it's Guggenheim Fellowship is only given to like who they find like the most creative and has potential people, right, in mid-career.
Well, like yeah, that. It's like we got this whole bunch of people that we can choose from. Everyone's creative.
But they pick you, yeah. So what?
Yeah, it's an incredible organization, the John Simon Guggenheim Foundation, and it supports not just it supports creative people working in the arts, but also historians, like academics. So it's cool. It's very interdisciplinary. You have to apply, and I applied twice. My second time, I was awarded a fellowship in 2019, and it's project based. So you submit with a project that you're trying to make, and you describe it, and you have to kind of talk about yourself as an artist and your previous work. It's really for not for emerging artists, but more like, mid-career to established artists working in whatever field, and not just artists. Again, it could be in the, they award fellowships to people working in the sciences as well. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I mean, it's a nice amount of money, and so with it, I was able to take a leave of absence from the university where I was teaching, and moved to Tijuana and really put in some work. Mm-hmm.
What were you teaching? Just
So I taught screenwriting, producing, all things related to film at a university called Johns Hopkins in Baltimore, and I did that for 15 years. So it was a big part of my life.
You also taught, right, in Tijuana?
In Tijuana, oh yeah, I had to teach one semester back in Baltimore, but online. So I did one semester online, which was harder for the students, but hard for the teachers too.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, especially since it's a creative course. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. We got bored after doing like this thing, like the visual, like how it was previously, and we had to switch it up to put in some new energy, I can get
definitely
doing it online and stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, but Matt, I want to ask you again. So back to Hamilton and that when you decided that you're just gonna do it, and then obviously you had to get it done, right? So was that can you tell us a bit about that part, like, because you've never at that point you've never done a movie before, right?
No, I was very lucky that I had 2 people who trusted me, who were like creative partners for the whole ride. A producer whose name is Jordan Mincer. I still work with him today. So I told him what I wanted to do, and he was like, well, why not? I'll support you. And so I started writing the script. I would send him drafts. He would, give me feedback. We got it to a place that we liked. He created a schedule and a budget, so we kind of knew how much this thing was going to cost and how many days we had to shoot. And then my other creative partner is a cinematographer, also a director, but he was a cinematographer on Hamilton, Putty Hill, and my third film as well. His name is Jeremy Saulnier. And without them, I mean, I never would have been able to make the movie. They were both in New York at the time, and came down for lots of visits, and obviously for the production. But it took me about 2 years, to get from script stage through the shoot, and then I was out of money and I had to go back to work full time, and it took me another 4 years to edit it and finish it. But I learned a lot along the way, which was my goal. And then the film found an audience. It got some good reviews, and people, not a lot of people, but people paid attention to it, and that made it easier to to try and do it again.
I mean, so far, like I see in your so you have been doing indie films, like documentary style stuff and all that. But are you also interested to do like blockbuster things and like Netflix series that kind of more commercial? You are, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, I want to get paid, and I also want to expand my practice. I think like the way I've been working all these years, it's like every film takes a while, and I'm only like actually directing, working with actors on production for a small like little piece of that. It's like every 5 years I get to direct something, and that it's hard to like develop your craft if you're only doing it like every few years. I mean, there's other parts of the process that I'm engaging with in between, but actually like the experience of being on set working with actors, it's so exciting, and I'd like to be able to do it more. I mean, yeah, I'm open. I mean, as long as I can like maintain some creative control, that's important to me. But
most of the work you've done, you had a hand in the writing aspect as well, right?
yes.
Most of the work. And
Yeah,
the idea,
always.
obviously, and the direction for sure, right?
Yep. Yeah, I like writing.
Like your dad was a writer, and like was that like the main thing that you were into when you were in teaching film and all that? Like, was that like a specification?
Yeah, I did teach some writing classes, and I also taught some classes like on like helping students develop tools to direct actors. Because I found it in film school when I was in film school, and then like with my students when I was teaching undergrads, they want to be directors, but they don't have any acting experience. And like, how do you direct actors if you don't have any empathy for the actor's experience? It's like this wall. So trying to break down that wall a little bit and demystify the process of acting or performing was like a focus of my academic work too. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like hearing all this, like a lot of it is, I mean, obviously working with people, and right, and when you're working with people, there are all these things that you have to kind of master in yourself before you can communicate well. I mean, these are things that we are kind of learning every day. And I just want to ask you this, like growing up, I mean, if you don't want to get too much into this, is cool, but like growing up with creative parents, like did that create kind of environment for you to that where you felt free to kind of express? I mean, I've read this thing about Spielberg's parents catching him drawing on the wall, and then encouraging him to just write on the wall, draw on the walls. Was it like that?
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was lucky because it's not, I know a lot of my students over the years, they had to convince their parents, that they were making the right choice for themselves and for their lives. And it's a difficult choice. It's not easy to be an artist and support yourself like this. But yeah, my parents were very supportive always.
That's fantastic. But let me ask you this. So do you think in that kind of environment, I mean, okay, we're talking about an environment where art is encouraged, like, be creative, do whatever you want, son, daughter, do whatever you want, do whatever you want. Versus another environment where it's like son, daughter, engineer, lawyer, right? So you got this very structured, very intense kind of like you feel stuck. Sometimes I feel like when you're in the second scenario where you're feeling stuck, but you are an artist, it kind of like forces you to kind of just be an artist, right? Like I remember, I mean, personal experience as a kid. There's one point where I was really into doing science experiments, right? Like, really into it. So much so that I got my parents and everything to go to the tool shop, right? Like buying so they can get all the tools. So I got all the tools, I got everything, and then the desire to do anything just died. And
just passed.
Yeah, and I don't know what there was like. So I guess my question here is like, I know art can flourish, and obviously being in this industry, you must have had friends who grew up in a different scenario to you, right? Where
Yeah.
do you think? What do you think? What do you feel about that?
I mean, I do think that, my parents were very progressive minded and liberal with me in terms of like the way that they raised me. I mean, I had a lot of freedom. Um, if I kind of lost interest in something, it was okay. They weren't going to push me. I mean, one regret that I have is that, I when I was coming up, I was in the choir. Like for many years, I sang.
Oh,
I can't really sing so well anymore. Too many years of smoking. But back then, I was really into it, and that interest in music transitioned into a desire to learn an instrument. And I started taking guitar lessons, but they were very formally classical guitar lessons. Like my teacher was like extremely strict about everything. Like,
yeah,
I mean, we had to do like an hour of like hand position exercises every lesson. And I was like, I told my parents, I was like, I don't like this. I hate this. I don't want to do it anymore. But I wish my parents had been like, no, you got to stick with this, because if they did, then I would be playing the guitar right now. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think like on the other hand, I've seen so many because like again, teaching at Johns Hopkins, you have these just like the students are incredibly ambitious. They're very high performing. In order to get into Johns Hopkins, like you have to have a very high GPA. They're just used to working and a lot of pressure. And then they get to a university where the pressure is even greater. And some of them are like, oh shit, I can do this creative thing. But they struggle with it because it's like, but will I be able to live the life I want to lead? Will I be able to pay my bills? Will my parents be happy? And like, and over the years, some of those students, I mean, I had so many kids who were like biomedical engineers who were like minoring in film studies. And I've kept in touch with a lot of them over the years, but they're working, they got good jobs. They went on to grad school. They're working in the medical industry now, but they still like write me and they're like, man, I really want to make a little film, and I'll try to give them some encouragement, stuff like that. But it's not going to happen. I mean, I don't think mostly it's not going to happen, So I don't know. I don't know what's better. I'm not a parent, but like, yeah, I don't know how I would.
And we definitely, since this is that foreign show, we have to bring back some questions about like in terms of how it has been for you, like even not just like artistically, but like as a person living in Mexico, like how have you grown? What do you feel? These thoughts, like we would like to hear them.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's something I think about a lot. As I said, I moved to Tijuana and did 2 years there. I moved for love. I met a person from Tijuana, and when I got the Guggenheim, it allowed me to move and for us to start building a life together. And then they got a job here in Mexico City, so I've been here for about a year and a half. I think, I mean, I was lucky because I moved and I was immediately welcomed, by my partner's family and friends. So I didn't feel, I mean, we have to remember it was like 2 years of pandemic. So there was some isolation, but I didn't feel like really lonely,
like you had like integration, like immediately, right? Like when you were around.
Yeah. So I like built this, kind of family around me, and me and that person, we're no longer together, but we're still like best friends and business partners. And I feel very grateful that relationships and that relationship and the relationships that I developed those years with them, have maintained. And now it's being in Mexico City. I can feel a little more lonely, but I just like to go out, and like have conversations with my neighbors and see friends. And I got a dog and a cat, so that really helps me when I'm feeling sad. But yeah, I mean, it's those. I mean, I feel very welcome here, I am also very much aware of, my relative privilege. I'm a white male who was born in the United States and can travel a lot of places in the world and rely on my native language and a pretty strong currency, and like I don't take those things for granted. And it's really important for me to think of myself as a guest here, and and that yeah, that's my thing. I mean, because like I know, a lot of people like me moved to Mexico City in those pandemic years, and I see a lot of expats from the US and Europe, and they're very like, it's very insular. It's like, I feel like they only hang out with other English language speakers. They don't really go out of their way to develop relationships with Mexicans, to socialize with local. Yeah, it's like and that really bothers me. So, but
I mean,
yeah,
it is a little weird because like you are in Mexico, and if you're going to do that, then you can just be back home, right? Like, so it does,
speaking
Yeah.
English,
does
right?
feel like
Yeah.
you need to challenge yourself and get out of your bubble. And So
definitely.
we've definitely, I mean, it's like when we met you, like I've already noticed that your accent, like you make the effort to
Yeah,
pronounce
I
it,
noticed that
like
as well.
so yeah.
Yeah.
I think that shows.
Thanks.
Yeah, no,
But that kind of thing is it's secret, no? It's the kind of respect that you have.
Yeah.
look, because we are all like that. Like if you're an English speaker, then you just pronounce it. It looks like English. The Spanish word looks like English. Then you just pronounce it in the English speaking way, right? So it's pretty funny sometimes.
It hit me the other day when someone said Texas or Texas in Spanish.
Oh yeah,
And then I was like,
Texas.
what are you saying? What?
it's like what's
Yeah.
that?
And I'm like, oh, then I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Then it's like my own
Texas.
ignorance, our ignorance, like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But
Totally.
it's interesting, yeah.
And but also after like chatting with you and Steve, then I realized that I'm also observing. I mean, I'm making like too much of an observation about Americans speaking in the American way, because like everyone's just trying, and I'm definitely doing it too. Like
Yes.
with a lot of words, like
Maybe we can ask you like this thing about like when you hear an American saying, this might sound rude, but basically saying, Buenos tardes, and how would they do it? Like, with a very strong, it's on a super strong,
Like
like
Buenos tardes. Buenos tardes.
yeah.
And then when you hear that, I mean, it's cool, if like first time in Mexico, whatever, it's cool. But then you get this feeling that it's got to do with the kind of, no, this is my accent, this is who I am, I'm not going to change that. So it is Buenos tardes to me,
Mhm.
and right?
I mean, if you're not practice code switching, like your whole life, then it's very it's difficult to do. And I mean, but in America, do you take second languages in school?
Yeah, but it's it's not highly prioritized.
Okay.
At least it wasn't in my experience. I mean, I did take Spanish in high school. I think I did it for 3 years, and then in my last year I didn't have to, so I stopped. I wish I could go back and shake my, like 15-year-old self and be like, dude, pay attention to these classes, stop cheating, just fucking do the work. But
Yeah.
yeah, but again, it's this, and I think it speaks to what you were saying, Isaac, too. There's this like, those of us from the US, I mean, there is a way in which like the United States enjoys kind of like cultural hegemony, and like we can go anywhere in the world feeling very entitled that like you're going to know something about the United States. You're probably going to listen to our music. You're probably going to watch our television shows. You're going to probably know our language. Like, I mean, these are assumptions, but it's like we walk around like that. And so when we move someplace, it's like we just expect everybody to meet us where we are, which I think is fucked up way of operating in the world. So.
It is, man. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to be a master of the language, but just have the openness, right? Just be open to hearing it without judgment, right? Like the sounds, the sounds.
Mm-hmm. Listen. Yeah.
I mean that's the like good part about being a traveler. Like you have to open your mind. You have to be adaptable. You have to think about like not behaving in the conditioned way that you have always lived, right? So yeah, I mean that's what we like to talk about here on this show, like and also we have noticed that like all the travelers that come here, the expats that are here in Mexico, like they are different. They are different from like what is expected of their countries. Like they're always like something like they think in a different way and they want to grow.
Who you talking
Most, I mean, general.
Give me some
I'm
names.
speaking.
Who you
No. No.
Well, that's good. That's good to hear. Yeah. I mean, I'm most disappointed with travelers from the United States. Well, I don't know, but maybe that's why I don't live in the United States anymore.
Well, we have a lot of great American friends right here in Mexico, but yeah, like a lot of them, like we have a friend who has lived here for so long, and I think he understands most of the Spanish, but he's just speaking in English all the way.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
never changes.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel weird when he does it, right? I know who you're talking about. Like it
Yeah.
just feels like okay, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say learning a new language is difficult for me. It's been really challenging, and I didn't know if I would ever be able to do it. But I think it's helped being here and just like totally immersing myself to the best of my ability. I mean, Tijuana was different because in Tijuana, because of its relationship and proximity to the United States, you can really rely on English there. A lot of English is spoken.
Mhm.
People are bilingual generally. I mean, not across the board, but and I think here, unless you're like, I don't know, in Roma and Condesa, you can't rely so heavily on English,
Yeah.
in my experience, so yeah, if you get out, you're gonna want to learn, right? I don't know. I mean, for me, like one of the most challenging, in the last few months, like I've been dating in Spanish, and that's like I like never thought I would be able to do that.
Wow.
But it's like a great way. It's a great way to learn. It's a great way to learn.
Yeah. They always say that, like you get a boyfriend or girlfriend that.
The motivation is automatic in there.
Yeah.
But I mean, moving from Tijuana to Mexico City, it's a lot better for doing film, right? For doing directing and all that.
Yeah, I mean, there's an industry in Tijuana and Baja California. There's a very large sound stage there, which employs a lot of people. A lot of big projects come through there, and then there's also like a really cool group of young filmmakers, like really, I mean, like in their early 20s, who are making interesting stuff. But it's kind of like the equivalent. Well, it's not like comparing Baltimore and New York, because in Baltimore there really isn't much of a film industry. But it's like if you grew up on the East Coast of the United States and you're interested in film, you're probably going to move to New York. And I feel like for people in Tijuana, a lot of them end up here because there's just a lot more opportunity.
Yeah. And are you connected with the industry here already? Like, do you know a lot of people? That's cool.
Yes, I do. Because my ex-partner is a producer, and I'd been able to travel to Mexico and through other parts of Latin America with my films through festivals. And Mexico really is, obviously, it's the center of the film industry in Mexico, but it's also a center for Latin America. So it's cool. Like I feel like a lot of friends from like Argentina and Peru come through here, like Brazil. It's cool. It's like you can connect with people working in the film industry throughout Latin America here in Mexico City. And I really like the community of filmmakers and producers and film artists that I've met here.
Right. Well, we also know some production companies, and we could connect you guys. So if they need like a director.
Yeah. Okay, man, we're coming down
amazing.
to the last, I would say 7 minutes, right? But I just want to ask you this real quick, because earlier when we were talking about your first film, right, and your process, you mentioned advancing your practice. So is that kind of how you treat the movies that you make? Like each project is like, okay, I'm just gonna improve a little bit more in these things. And next one, I'm just gonna improve a little bit more in these things. Is that part of your thing? And does it also tie into you being here in Mexico, kind of just cooking in sauce, developing flavor, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think about. I think that I really I'm more kind of like methodical and intentional with my like feature films, the ones that I'm going to spend a couple years writing and then financing, and then the short form it's been really exciting for me to work to make more shorts and to play more, because I feel like that's a space where I can really really experiment. There's like less at stake, and so I try to use these short films as like real like exercises, and then on my longer, more ambitious films, there's like certain goals that I'm trying to meet. I mean, like for example, it wasn't until my fourth film that I began really working with professional actors who people would recognize, and that I learned so much from that, but being in a different place, making a film in Berlin or making a film in Mexico, that's when I really feel like the most freedom, because it's like, I don't know, there's nothing, I have to be open and receptive to everything. I can't go in like really hard, like with, like this set of presumptions about the way things are going to work or be or look or feel,
I was gonna ask you to drop some names, but then like we have to like shut it already, because the production is telling us that that's the end of the show.
Yo, the hour just flew by.
Yeah.
I know, this was a pleasure.
We really enjoyed having you, and we'll see you tomorrow, right?
Yes, you will.
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll see you tomorrow.
That
Looking
event
forward
to the public, by the way, but the Chinese New Year event is, so for the rest of you included, Matt, you guys can come on down on the 21st of January and watch that one.
Yes, so signing off, my name is Celestine.
Thank you so much, Matt. My name is Isaac Rakesh. Really amazing and beautiful conversation.
And we have Matt Porterfield.
Thank you so much.
So here on TFS and activating your senses.
Peace.
Thanks for your time. This was cool.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you to all who joined us here on That Foreign Show. It's been awesome. I'm Celestine Angel.
And I'm Isaac Crouch, and we'll see you next Friday. Have a great weekend, y'all.
Entrando por tus oídos hasta llegar al centro de tus emociones, ADR Networks está en este momento
activando tus sentidos.
That foreign show. We'll be seeing you on that foreign show. We'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you every Friday here.